and welcome to another exciting episode of the Human Weapon System. Here on the HWS, we have another exciting one. We got Traci Tauferner here with us, a great friend and colleague of mine. Before we get further into introductions with Traci, no matter what platform you're on, if you like what you're hearing, please tickle that bell, give us a 5-star rating, subscribe, whatever it is. But even give us a shout out online, man. Let's continue to build the base. And we'll keep doing what we're doing over here, trying to teach each other the best practices of HP here in the tactical first responder law enforcement spaces. And now, Traci, this is going to be a fun one today. So for all those who don't know Traci, she's an athletic trainer who works within the firefighter community. But more than just that, she's an advocate for athletic trainers in the whole HW space. Traci, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited to be here.
I know we've been talking about this for a long time here, and so it's finally come to fruition. It's like a Saturday during the week. It's amazing. So, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, wonderful. Well, again, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm Traci Tauferner. I'm an athletic trainer and strength and conditioning specialist. I currently work with police officers, corrections, dispatchers, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, all in all in the public safety athletic trainer space for the last 14 years. I'm also a strength and conditioning specialist that's been practicing in that setting just as long. And I like to bring that athletic trainer and strength and conditioning brain kind of into the public safety setting. Outside of my work with law enforcement and firefighters, I'm also a huge mental health and veteran advocate. So anything in the mental health space that I can do, first aid, even just getting people to the right resources, and then working with veterans to make sure that they have the skills or the things that they need to be successful to, it all kind of comes together when you're in the public.
It does.
And so, oh gosh, it's been a whirlwind of experience over the last, 14, almost 15 years now. Yeah. And I'll tell you, where I started to where I am now, I never imagined that I would be into those, the mental health, the trauma, the stress components, and, actively working those into my protocols when it comes to athletic training and strength and conditioning with this group.
Yeah. I thank you for that. And that's amazing. I'm glad you're kind of touching on that, kind of all those different aspects, when we started talking to that return to mission such. And I think you put on something that I actually want to tease out. So you said it's changed so much over your career over the past, 15 years. What are some of the big differences between when you first started and now when it comes to your return to mission protocols?
Yeah. So I actually always start now with mental health first.
Okay.
I like to find where is somebody at in the spectrum of all of the things wellness related. Where's their sleep? Where's their social and relationship connections, right? Where's their nutrition? Where's their strength and conditioning? Even those that come into my space with injuries, I'm asking them these questions regularly because I need to know, I need to see the comprehensive profile to best understand the care protocol or the plan of care that we're going to put in place for them, and ensuring that we're tapping into all those things. We all know if they're not sleeping, they're not going to recover. They're not going to heal as fast, right? That's an easy one.
That's an easy one. Yep.
Yeah, that's an easy one. And so early in my career as an athletic trainer, strength conditioning person, I focused on, hey, we need to get you fit. We need to get you strong. We need to take care of this injury. And not that I didn't do anything wrong in that time period, just learning as much as I've learned over these last, years, I've really shifted my focus. And I'll tell you, my outcomes have improved. My compliance to my programming has improved. My strength training programming that I'm doing, I'm having a higher increase in percentage of people being successful. Not that they're following the program any differently, but I think they're approaching it from a different mindset. Are you fit? Are you ready? Are you in the right mental space, emotional space to be able to train today? Right? Because we're having those conversations a little differently. I'm sure you've experienced that as well.
Oh yeah, when I see the same guys every day, you kind of understand just by when they walk in, like, okay, he's usually chipper, he's not. He's dragging butt. Go talk to him, figure out what's going on. Yeah, is it something go on? Did this late mission? Whatever. Yeah. And I love the fact that you mentioned sleep. That always comes up. It's even inadvertently that topic comes up, and it's amazing that I am seeing that from all these different professionals, whether we're talking within the typical athletic domains or life cycle management, these little things. That's really good. How do you kind of approach that with someone who's fairly new to the career fields that you're working with, or even actually, let me change that up a little bit. How do you approach that with a new athletic trainer?
New athletic trainers coming into tactical space. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think in my head where I even start with that answer.
Well, let's even back up a little bit. I
think we got to back up first before we dive into that.
So let's back up a little bit. Let's lay the foundation. So most of us don't even know what an athletic trainer is. When we come with athletic trainers, at least with me, I'm going to show my age a little bit. It was when I was on the football field, in high school, and I rolled my ankle, and the athletic trainer would come out, take my ankle, and get me out. That's what I was exposed to as athletic trainers growing up. And I know that's nowhere near to the caliber of the athletic trainers today. So could you expand upon that a little bit?
I certainly can. Athletic training profession has grown a lot.
Yeah.
Even into the space I'm in, right? 14 years ago, even when I first came out in 2007 out of my undergrad, I was working as an athletic trainer in junior high, in a high school type setting, going to practices, covering games, taking care of anything that would potentially come up that's musculoskeletal related and beyond. And then when I was approached by a fire department to do more, that's when I started looking into the tactical setting, and I couldn't find anybody. The only person I was able to find was Nancy Burke out of Fairfax, Virginia.
Oh, yeah. Nancy. Wow.
Yeah. John Hoffman was in California. And I contacted both of them, and I'm like, hey, I'm an athletic trainer. I'm a strength conditioning person. This agency is looking for both, and I don't even know what I'm doing. Please help me. And they're still my mentors today, and I'm really happy that they walked me through that. But athletic trainers are super skilled. We have 5 domains that make us special. And I think we say special compared to other healthcare providers in these spaces. So we're experts when it comes to risk reduction, wellness, health literacy, prevention, right? We're also experts in assessment, evaluation, diagnosis. Certainly not to the complex, more diverse conditions like a physical therapist or an orthopedic specialist might be, but we have the basic abilities to go over assessments, evaluate, and look at those sprains and strains, musculoskeletal fractures, even diving into some of the diseases and conditions to say, hey, how can we help this person? And while we see some red flags, what's next? We're also really good at that critical incident management piece of it.
Yeah, they are.
Triaging, right?
Yeah.
And my military background takes me to triaging all the way.
Yeah.
So you help.
Athletic trainers are a force multiplier when it comes to HP professionals. I wish the military would put a lot more. They're starting to. If you really look at like USA Jobs recently, they're putting a lot more emphasis on athletic trainers. And I love that. I mean, athletic trainers are a force multiplier because you have, like you said, those 5 pillars. You have so many insights, and you can help bounce between the performance and the recovery side of the MSK domain. And not even just that, you can even bounce around, like you were saying, into that mental health, even into that nutrition side. So you can help any of those domains in that traditional athletic, paradigm, which is the main set for all HP in the military these days, or in these professions these days.
Yeah, it's certainly growing. I anticipate, based upon the trends happening, they're going to double their amount of athletic trainers in the next 3 to 5 years, if not sooner. They're really seeing that the impact that we can have on that, incident management, and then that early assessment piece of it is really where it can thrive in our skill set.
Good.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to talk more about like some of the other domains. I frequently tell people, like, we have 5 domains and these are the areas we're skilled in. And so it's like a repeating record in the back of
Yeah. Yeah. Please expand. Yeah. Because that's what we're actually talking about before I opened my mouth.
That's okay. And so, you already kind of hit on it earlier on the critical incident management, but then the other piece of it, the last 2 domains that I didn't get to was the therapeutics, so the rehab side of it, and then the healthcare administration. And I think the healthcare administration side of it is where most athletic trainers underplay their skill sets because they don't see themselves as a leader. They don't see themselves as a supervisor or a manager. And so they constantly are critiquing and helping and having those difficult conversations with coaches and parents and adults, right? For those that are in the public safety setting, you were talking to grown adults about how to manage their plan of care, how to take care of themselves better, what type of self-care strategies they can do for themselves. And so the athletic trainer is quite diverse. And I do think they have a really good skill set on the pieces that we just discussed. The critical incident and then that assessment piece is golden and very, very much what helps us be diverse in the multitude of settings that you're now seeing athletic trainers in, like industrial, right? Occupational, administrative, right? Running bigger programs, military, public safety. And so it'll be exciting to see where this profession grows to in the next, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, at least here on the Air Force side, I've seen it just within the past 12 months, the realization that they're underpaid and they're underutilized, and they're increasing the scopes of responsibilities along with the salaries for athletic trainers. And it's really amazing to see, just because, again, I love having athletic trainers work with me as part of my staff, and it just force multipliers. And just because I have a feeling that if you're ATC qualified with a CSCS, you're going to put any strength coach out of their job, just because you can hit so many more of those areas. It's amazing.
Let's touch on that actually, because that's
please.
That comes up often, and I agree, but I disagree, and this is why. Okay. I want to talk about this one. So
please.
14 years ago, I would have said exactly what you said. An athletic trainer that is skilled in athletic training and strength and conditioning is like golden, like a superhero. Okay, maybe not a superhero; it's not elevated that much, but
close.
We're golden, right? Because we can do lots of different things, and I'm one of those. And I was very biased for the longest time to say an athletic trainer with CSCS is the only person that I want to have on my team. Now, as I moved from my previous organization where I had that mindset into an organization that was very diverse with PTAs and COTAs and strength coaches, and I had all the people, and I had all the people to deploy the work. One of the things that I now recognize is an athletic trainer has these areas that they're good in. And if they have their CSCS, that's awesome. They can certainly go and deploy on their own, but as you just said, the plates keep getting fuller. And one of the things that's happening now is that plate for an athletic trainer, just in those 5 domains that we talked about, is overloaded. And now you expect me to be a strength coach too. What ends up happening, and I personally went through this with an agency that I worked with, what ends up happening is you start in this strength and conditioning side, and athletic training's over here. And it's very easy to kind of get the strength conditioning going. But then at some point in time, the injuries and the rehab and the prevention, not that strength conditioning is a prevention, but it's different. Yeah. It starts to take over. And now you're in a position where you're doing so much rehab, so much prevention that the strength and conditioning actually starts to dip off. And so I'm very pro trying to find strength and conditioning, or someone with some experience on strength and conditioning, because there's multiple different professions that are out there that could be skilled in that, to actually assist with the athletic trainer or the physical therapist on site, or just be part of that care team, because the team approach is really where you get the big bang for the buck. And I think that's what the military is learning is, hey, athletic trainers, great here, and strength coach is here. and physical therapist is here, and nutritional person's here, and we all can technically play in each other's playgrounds to some extent, but knowing that we have each other to lean on because there's so much work to be done and not enough time in the day and not enough resources to do it. And as a person that is like 100% pro work-life balance, which I believe I have work-life balance. People will disagree, but I believe I have work-life balance. It's hard to do that if you're the person for everything. And so, conquer and divide up those tasks to, get further. Your thoughts?
Okay. No, that's very well said. And I guess I kind of misspoke a little bit, but very well said. I look at it is definitely a team dynamic, right? Yeah, it's like, because when I first came on, I was holding many different hats. And like you said, once the primary job or in your statement of work takes over, everything else kind of just starts dwindling. You have to focus on that. And so if you're one holding 3 positions, something has to give. We're all super people, but we're human at the same time.
We always try to take it all on, right?
Yeah.
You always try to take it all on. Like, I can do it. I'm a helper. I'm a fixer. I can do it. Yeah. Your light's going to burn out if you don't start leaning on the fear of others. Or
exactly.
You're going to get complacent is the other part of it. And nobody wants to get complacent because that's when somebody gets hurt or something really bad happens.
And I love the fact that you said that you could play in everyone's sandbox, but it's to the extent that you're working together. And that is a beautifully elegant way of saying optimization. I love that.
Well said.
Yeah. So since we've kind of cleared up the base definition or the base description of athletic training as it kind of is currently, of course, again, every truth has day and date timestamp. Let's get back to sleep. So let's get back to that original question because that's still would like that. So let's kind of split up in two. How when you first get a new client and you find that they're having sleep issues, right? Whether it's not, let's say it's a non-medical thing, right? Because we go down that route all day long. What are some of the first things you do with them to try to diagnose the issue and create a recovery plan?
Okay. How I assess sleep. Let's talk about that first, because I think that plays into that answer. We take everyone in and we take them through a sleep hygiene questionnaire as part of day one that they are hired. Where's your sleep currently at? And then if I'm seeing somebody for injuries and it's something that I know I'm going to be with them for a while, then I'll survey them again. We actually take them through the sleep questionnaire. We've got it online. It does all the things. And I'll look at their sleep score. Not necessarily to measure how many ones and zeros they have, but merely to say where are the areas that they're having ones and fives, and because it's on I think it's a 0 to 5 basis, right?
Okay.
And so once I identify where the problems is, that makes it easier for that conversation. At the lowest part, if you don't have a questionnaire or a resource for that, I mean, the resource is nice because you can track it then and you can use that data justify your existence in the agency or whatever it may be. We talk about that later.
ROI, baby.
Right, ROI, it's all about that. But at the minimum, I'll say, how's your sleep? And you might say, hey, my sleep is good. Okay, what is good? Keep asking those, investigative questions, right? I learned that from my detective, right? And so, hey, I don't know, I sleep like, 3 hours a night. Okay, so in my mind, I'm going, all right, we're not getting enough sleep. And I'll say, okay, why are you only getting 3 hours? Is it because you're having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep?
Yeah.
Okay, and depending on their answer, I'm going to give them, okay, if you're having trouble falling asleep, let's talk about maybe getting you into your primary health care physician and look at a sleep aid or analyze that further, right? If you're having trouble falling asleep, that for me takes it down another level of questions. Okay. Or staying asleep. Okay, you're having difficulty staying asleep because something's waking you up. Oh, you just had a baby. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Or are you waking up from night terrors? Do we have trauma that we have to deal with here? What's going on, right? So I think just opening up that question and asking them, those are probably the simplest ones that I'll get to. How much are you sleeping? Are you having trouble falling asleep or staying asleep? Because it's usually one or the other. And then do we need to consider a further evaluation? Is it something that a sleep aid can help? You know, is it their answer to, oh, I'm taking a sleep aid. Oh, what's your sleep aid? Oh, I take like 3 Benadryl and 5 melatonin. And sometimes okay, let's talk about those coping strategies, right?
Yeah.
I always come at it from a very open mind aspect because I think you don't want to point fingers at them. They may not know what they don't know, right? That's another thing that I learned as my career went on is I assume everyone that comes into my space knows very little about how to take care of themselves. And so I go at it that way, and I'll ask probing questions to see what level of knowledge that they're at. And I have people on my law enforcement team and my firefighter team that have their CSCS, that have a personal training, that have a master's in public health, right?
Yeah.
So I know who those people are, and we can have deeper dive conversations on that.
Yeah.
And I'm also there to let them know, like, I don't know the answer to everything. I have experts that I've tapped into, like yourself, where I'm like, hey, I don't know that answer, but I've got these 5 people that we can call and we can investigate it further to see, you know, what are we going to do with it? Once I know where their sleep is at, and we've got at least some type of care plan for the sleep, then we can start to address the other aspects of it. But I'll tell you, 14 years ago, you came into my office and you wanted a strength conditioning program. Traci, I always tested you. I gave you a strength conditioning program. Now you come into my space and you say, I want a strength conditioning program. And I assessed you on your sleep and a couple other things, but we're talking about sleep right now. And your sleep is junk. You're not getting a strength conditioning program from me.
Nice.
Not the level that you want. You're getting something else.
Right.
Because how am I supposed to give you a strength conditioning program when you're not recovering? Recovery is essential to the building of any type of muscular tissue. We need you to be sleeping. And so those are the hard conversations that I get to have now. But the respect level has exponentially increased because we are looking at it from a comprehensive lens. We're not looking at it from this narrow strength and conditioning box. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total. Yeah, you got to do the basics right first before you can even get to performance. And
absolutely.
That's and it's the hard part, really, is really kind of, you know, doing the basics right. You know, whether it's sleep, hydration, basic nutrition, little things like that. So we've talked the client end. Let's talk the mentoring end. So
I kind of don't. Sorry, I go down rabbit holes. Full disclosure.
No, this is great. No, I'm glad you talked that because again, almost every podcast or conversation I have, sleep. We can be talking about the mood, and sleep comes up, and it's great.
So important.
I love it is, and so, but we're always talking about it from the client standpoint, but haven't really kind of talked about it at all from kind of a mentoring standpoint for the next, when we're trying to build our bench, right? Which is the goal of kind of what we're trying to do with this podcast. And so what are some of the conversations or even points that you've given to younger ATCs that have had the privilege of having you as a mentor?
Well, I still don't know. I haven't answered that question.
Okay.
Those pause points. I think when it comes to mentoring the next generation, what I try to share is the experiences that I've had, not looking at it from the narrow box. You know, again, we're heavily skilled in these 5 domains. Let's use all 5 domains in it. And so when it comes to, I teach them the bare bones basics that we just discussed, you know, even just asking the question and making that employee or that officer, that firefighter aware of their sleep, you know, bringing some attention to that is already a step in the right direction. And again, it doesn't need to be complicated, you know? Yeah. And so I think letting them know, like, hey, we have to be asking the questions about sleep. We have to be asking the questions about nutrition. We have to be asking the questions about relationships and emotions and mental health. And if I mentor them right, then what happens is when they get out to their first, you know, site as an athletic trainer, public safety, they'll call me up and they'll say, hey, I had one of those days that you were telling me about. where someone comes into your space and they say, hey, my shoulder hurts. And you look at it as an athletic trainer, you evaluate it, and you find nothing there. Nothing's wrong with the shoulder.
Yeah.
It's got full strength. It's got full range of motion. You can't identify where the point of pain is.
Yeah.
You know what those next questions need to be. How is the sleep? Are you recovering? Which usually leads you down to some type of mental health, which leads you down to some type of emotional relationship health, where now you're looking at all those other aspects, or nutrition, to say, okay, something's not right here. And why isn't it right? And so I look forward to those conversations when they come back to me and say, I had one of those days. Or when they come at me and say, hey, I had someone come in and I had to deny them the strength training program. That's another day where I'm like, because we're not just, we're not a supermarket where the employee can go to and just pick an apple and just eat the apple, and they just get the apple whenever they want it. That's not how it works. We have to hold the line to say, no, I'm not giving you a strength conditioning program because you're only sleeping 2 hours a night. And the last thing you need to do is spend more time at the gym or more time physically destroying your body when you're not giving it enough recovery. And so I'm saying, no, not right now. Let's talk about what we can do. And I've had officers and firefighters come into my space and get angry, never disrespectful. They're always the most respectful individuals I have ever worked with. But gotten angry of like, what do you mean you're going to give me a program? I'm not. But here's the why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then once they understand the why, they usually sit there for a second in the chair quietly. And then they look at me and they say, I understand. Then like, well, what are we going to do? Well, here's what we're going to do. And then we walk that path together. And the ones that have walked that path together, they come back and they thank you. And they give you a hug.
Oh, excellent.
Or their wife writes you a letter, and their kids draw you a picture. Because now they have their dad or their mom back because they're actually in the recovery and the sleep and the things that they need. That's where we, as healthcare professionals and experts and strength conditioning professionals, that's a role that we can really make a difference on. And I think a lot of us are missing the mark. We can do better.
Powerful. Wow. All right. Well, Traci, very well said. I mean, I don't know. I can't caveat off on that. That is just so true. I mean, you know what? I think we're going to put the exclamation point and period on that, and let's kind of move on, because there's nothing else that can come after that. And that's exactly what we're here to do. So let's kind of talk, let's shift gears. So one of the things I always kind of get is, at least with me kind of in my space, in the kind of the performance side, I work directly with our physical therapist. I'm unlucky to not have an ATC.
We're going to have to fix that. You got to change that.
We do. I've been fighting that for 3 years. Maybe soon. But we're always talking about technology and metrics, really kind of integrate into the program to try to, make things a little bit more efficient, especially when it's, 2 to 3 people who's working with well over 100 personnel. And so I'd like to kind of get your thoughts and your approach on technology and metrics, especially in your space.
Okay. Well, this is going to be a short but kind of easy part of the conversation.
All right. Let's get at it.
Yeah. So I work a lot with small to medium-sized agencies. And to spell that out, small agencies are 1 to 40 people roughly. And medium-sized agencies are like 40 to 1,000. Okay. I'm not a large agency. So because I work with small, medium agencies, our resources are extremely limited. Okay. And so our abilities to use like certain technologies like wearables or trackers or monitors or anything like that, we don't really have the tools or the resources at this time. Maybe in the future to get grants or something like that. But on the recovery side of it, we have implemented a ton of different tools, what I call tools in the toolbox, to help our police officers, firefighters recover better. Okay. Tools such as utilizing self-manufactured release techniques. It's a class that I teach several agencies on these toolkits of how to use balls and canes and foam rollers and massage guns and compressive devices and, whatever may particularly be in the toolbox to help them recover physically from the stresses that are placed upon their body. There's an enormous amount of the, emotional, mental stress that comes with the job. And there's a lot of physical stress that comes with the job. And if you've worked with public safety, you know that most of them have a trigger point in their upper back, or they have tension headaches that they're not telling you about, or they have a lower back, hip kind of issue. Those are kind of the things I see a lot of because of the gear that they wear, because of the way that they're training, because of, again, the physical, mental, emotional stress that is placed upon their body. So our technology, like our footprint is really minimal because we have less money available for that. And when, when my agencies come to my chiefs, and we're going through right now, right? We're getting ready for the next fiscal year, budgets are due, that kind of stuff. And they're saying to me, hey, what are some things that we need to consider? I'll tell you that wearables and that type of technology is not even on my list. And it's not on my list because it's going to take a significant amount of money to provide those devices. And what would I actually get from it? How is that going to change the way that I practice? And I don't know that, I don't feel confident saying right now it's going to change how I practice.
Right.
It might help them, right? I've got several of my officers that already have a Whoop device, or they use a polar heart rate monitor, or they use a Garmin, or they minimum use their Fitbit or an iWatch, right, to track heart rate or look at HRV, which is not an area I'm an expert in. Curious about it, still learning, right? But I think we focus more on more of the innovations on recovery and, again, what tools can I see in their toolbox when it comes to technology and knowledge.
Excellent. I love it.
Thanks.
So it's well, and it's important. It's like, what are you trying to get after? What metric or what question are you trying to answer? When it comes to metrics, and there's so many crazy doodads out there for recovery these days, which many of them are great. It's just, you got to pick and choose what works best for you. And myofascial release is amazing. I love how you talk about the one in the upper shoulder.
Everyone got one.
I see that one several times a week. Yeah, and it just. I forget it. It's right there in the middle portion of the trapezius, and it just runs the last bit of the multifundus up to the back of the neck, and it just explodes. You can just see it creeping up. We actually we got a lot of our guys Theracanes to be able to
love those.
Get into that. Yeah, they were not strong enough. I deal with bigger guys, and they'll get in there and they'll just dig and just snap it in half, just trying to dig into their traps. It was amazing.
Thanks, Dan. So we have a store here I'm in Wisconsin. So we have a store in Wisconsin called Five Below. I don't think you have that in Germany, but it's called Five Below, and it has this. It looks like a lacrosse ball attached to a suction cup. And you can suction it to a wall. Yeah. And then they can lean against it and put the pressure. So I've used that. It's $5. But I've used that as a tool that is, people can put that extra pressure, because I've seen that. I've seen those Theracanes, depending on the brand. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but that was a really nice one, because it's hard to get that lacrosse ball.
It is.
It's like impossible to get it in the right spot. And everyone's like, oh, just lean up against the wall. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of works, but it's not my favorite. Yeah. So,
well, a funny story is, we speak of I love the lacrosse ball. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen that doohickey. But when we first opened our performance facility, I had about 80 lacrosse balls. Over the past 2 years, I'm down to 2.
All the time.
They do. And I just walk by, I see them at the guy's desk. I'm like, have at it. But trigger point therapy is great.
When I teach the class, I was down in Illinois teaching the myofascial class recently, and I had said to someone's like, what if you don't have a lacrosse ball? I said, then you just go find your canine and go steal a bunch of tennis balls from their desk. And that's a quick one. And one of the guys was like, I'm canine, don't take my balls. And then we all just started laughing in class because, we always have that weird sense of humor as part of public safety. But I don't think I'll ever forget that. Don't take my balls. And I was like, all right, don't take canines' balls. They need those for the dogs to exercise them out and do their things. And so it's a good alternative. They're not overly expensive either. But lacrosse balls are golden. I wish they would cut the price down so you could make them more accessible for people.
Yeah, they're great. One of my go-tos is the hyperized sphere. This thing, that's the one treat I bought myself, and that thing's great for, definitely for trying to hit those spots or after a long run, plantar fasciitis, trying to open up the plantar muscles a little bit. It's great.
Well, I'm going to let you into a new one. Do you ever use marbles?
No.
Oh, this is an athletic trainer secret to all you at home. You're listening to this podcast. And let you in on the athletic training secret world.
What do you got?
Yeah, so you take a cake pan and you put a bunch of marbles in it. Then you fill the cake pan with the coldest water you can get. Some of my people actually keep their marbles in the fridge, not in the freezer, but in the fridge so they're cold. Then after you get done with those runs, you roll your feet on the marbles because they have all those little intrinsic muscles in there, and you know that you can't get down with that big lacrosse ball or that tennis ball.
Yeah.
And then what you do is we actually need to build those intrinsic muscles of the foot. So you pick up the marbles with your feet,
with your toes,
and then move them to another pan. And if you do that, you'll be in a really good position to try to help that plantar fasciitis. So very low cost, very easy. I got a bag of marbles. I usually keep them in a Ziploc bag with the exercises. I have a couple exercises for folks when you talk about prevention toolkits. So I have a bag of marbles, exercises, and then I have them like a stack of them in my room, and people will grab them. And then when you're done with them, put them on my desk. Then I sanitize the marbles because we don't need any. Right? Yeah, that's the thing you should share. This is your own pan with your own marbles, right? I'd be very clear about that. So in college, it's totally random story, but in college, I worked with UWO wrestling team, and we had a MRSA outbreak. We had to clean and pack those wounds. I never want to experience that again in my life. So I am adamant about cleanliness of my space and my equipment. Yeah. Even the massage gun, I'm like, wipe it down when you're done, because people are they do their things. So some of y'all get gross sometimes. So
kind of the same way we have the Theragun. We got a set of hyperized boots, and so you have to put on clean socks and wear long pants when you get into this. Not as soon as you get out of the gym, and make sure you wipe it down.
Yes. It's funny. One of my departments, I had this is one just a couple of years ago. This is when like the cold plunges first started to become popular. And one of my guys is super into strength conditioning and like all the latest and greatest gadgets. And I love it because we have the best conversations together when I'm there. And so for a while there, they had an old tub, like a hazmat container, garbage can.
Yep.
They were filling it with ice and water, and then they would take turns plunging. And so they're like, "Hey, look what we made!" Like they were so excited, like my son coming home from school to show me the picture that he drew at school or colored. Right? They were so excited. Yeah. And then I kind of had to be like, "So who cleans this?" And they're like, "You don't need to clean it." And I was like, "You need to absolutely clean. You should be draining the water between each person, sanitizing it, and refilling it." And they're like, "No." And I was like, "Yes." I was like, "We will have a MRSA outbreak in here if you da-da-da-da." And so they were like, so I got the nickname Mean Traci at the department. Well, and it was funny because at the time the chief's name was Traci too. And so I walked in and Mean Traci's here today. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, I love you. I love you with all my heart. I'm just trying to keep you safe. Because it'd be a huge impact to our department if we had that many people that became sick, from some type from that skin condition. And so I thought that was quite comical.
Our physical therapist and our medic had that same conversation. because military, they're a little more rudimentary because what we have, they just took a trash can. It was Rubbermaid. They scrubbed it out, and they were doing it, and it was like, eh. So what they do now is they actually put a trash bag in there, with the big gallon trash bags, and so at least they can drain it and then dump it out, and then it saves a step, I guess. It's not good enough for the environment, but
it's in the right direction, I guess. Oh,
it is. It's those small wins that you kind of look for.
It is those small wins.
Oh man, this has been great. I mean, we go down so many other rabbit holes, but this has been great. So, kind of as we wrap up here, I want to ask one last question. This has been an amazing conversation. I wish we could keep it going, but if you have one or two pieces of advice to give, the upcoming generation of HP professionals, whether it's athletic trainers, physiologists, PTs, doctors, the nutritionists, whatever, what would that advice be?
Well, okay. I knew you were going to ask me this question because we had talked about it beforehand.
Yeah.
And my husband said I need to narrow this list down from like 10 nuggets to 2 nuggets because I have several that I think we need to think about in this profession, especially for the long-standingness of it, right?
Well, bring it on. Let's talk. Let's talk a little bit longer. Let's do it.
I promise. All right. So one of the areas that I think our profession needs to do better on, we've already learned all the things, right? We've gone to the schooling, we've obtained the certifications, we've done all of those things. But one of the spots that I think we need to really work on is relationships. We need to do a better job about caring about the individuals that we're taking care of. And I mean actually caring about them, getting to know them, getting to know their families, getting to know what makes them tick, and integrating those types of conversations into our practice with them, whatever that may particularly look like for you.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think we need to do, if I'm giving you nugget number 2, is we need to keep ourselves more accountable. Accountable for the things that we want to accomplish as part of our time with the individual, and then holding true to the promises that we're making them. A lot of folks that I have mentored have fallen short on that. And I think they fall short because of the things we talked about earlier. There's too many eggs in the basket. We're trying to do all of it. We're trying to be all the things, and we can't. We need to lean on the team. We need to lean on other members of our profession or get them to somebody else or whatever it may be. But we need to stay as accountable as we possibly can. And then if I had to give a nugget to those, I mean, those that do have families and have, fur babies, whatever it may be, make sure you're doing something for yourself. It is very easy when you're working with the tactical public safety professionals wrapped up in the grind of the day. And sometimes we don't recognize in ourselves that we are merely compensating because we're not dealing with our own trauma. The traumas are the things that we hear in our space. And so take care of yourself. Do something that makes you happy. Talk to somebody if talk therapy is what you need, or lean on a close friend. In the athletic training world, we have a program called ATCs, which is a peer-to-peer or peer support group just for athletic trainers. I'm sure we have these in other professions as well, but don't be afraid to lean on those. You talked about the mentoring side of it earlier. That's a piece of mentoring that I try to share with folks. Like, you are going to hear stuff. You're going to hear stuff that you wish you never heard. You're going to hear stuff that's going to make you look at the random guy in the grocery store differently, right? And that look at that mom differently. You're going to hear a lot of stuff about your community, about people. And one, you need to protect that because that's your job, right? We need to stay hypocritical. We need to protect those conversations in order to continue to establish trust within the program that we're implementing. But you don't have to keep it all hidden, right? Yeah. I myself found about midway through my career of working with tactical, I had just came back from a deployment in the military, and I had all of that trauma. And then I was working with law enforcement and fire, and I was hearing all their stuff, getting all that secondary trauma. And then next thing I know, it all started to build up, and people around me, my family and my closest friends were saying, "Hey, you're different. Hey, you're doing things different. Hey, you're disengaging. Hey, you said you're not sleeping. Why are you not sleeping?" They basically 180 the athletic training stuff we talked about earlier on me. And that's when I realized, hey, I'm not okay. Talk therapy didn't work for me personally, but I found other means of therapy that worked for help me process out my trauma so I don't take it home every night. Especially now I've got a family, I've got 3 young children, my husband, and I help with my parents. Like, I don't need to be all that on them, right? Yeah. And so if you put yourself in that space, you got to take care of yourself if you're going to work with these, these men and women and these folks in these professions. You have to have an outlet. So do something for yourself, make yourself happy. Don't be afraid to ask if you yourself need some of the services that you possibly sell to others.
Okay. Wow. Good stuff. Well, I wish we had more time, but man, we're going to have you again. There's just so much to do. But yeah, so thank you so much for all that, Traci. Thank you for your time. As always, it's a pleasure. I love our conversations. So
thank you. I appreciate you having me on the podcast and getting a chance to share some of my insights with your listeners. And I look forward to the conference coming up.
Yeah. For those who don't know, coming up here in September, we have the Human Weapon System Symposium, Lessons from the Field, and Traci's one of our presenters. So if you want to hear some more, I can't give you quite away what she's talking about. Kind of keeping that a secret, but it's a good one. Let's talk about that. So, but anyway, Traci, thanks for your time. Everyone out there listening, thank you so much for listening in and giving us your insights and your thoughts and just your time. And finally, I want to thank our title sponsor, Play, for sponsoring our show. Again, our friends over at Play, if you ever need any help with your facilities, reach out to them. They've helped me build my facility, and they've some of the best products and most important, customer service. That's what it comes down to. Thank you for your time, y'all. Take care.